Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and today I'm going to try to build a simple setup that solves a couple of common garden problems. Now, I'm using this on a pumpkin patch, but it should work for anything you want to grow. So the problems I'm trying to solve first is time spent watering. I've been watering all this manually. You could get a simple sprinkler head that would save some time, but I'm trying to target the amount of water just where the plants are. So for that part of the solution, I'm going to be using a drip irrigation kit. The second problem is I want to fertilize, but I don't want to buy a chemical fertilizer. Now, the best solution to start with is using a good, rich soil with some compost and some nitrogen in it. And I try to do that first. But now I want fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, without spending any money or adding chemicals. And we're going to try to solve that with pond water. The third thing I want to do is set this entire system up to run off of solar so that I don't have to run power down here or use up any more electricity on my bill. So first thing I want to do is just get the drip irrigation set up so it can be used with a garden hose. Then once that's working, we'll build the rest of the system out to run solar. When I decided I wanted to do drip irrigation, I went to Home Depot and I looked at all the irrigation supplies, and I found out pretty quick it'd be more cost effective to buy a kit like this rather than buying all the parts separately. Now this kit I think was $32 at Home Depot. I found similar kits that look like they have a lot of value on Amazon, so I'll put a link in the description to one of those. The main component you get here is 250 foot of 1/4 inch line. And then you've got this bucket full of fittings that go into that line. I've looked at this stuff before and I've watched other videos on it, so I have a general idea of how it works, but I've actually never used it before. You know what? Instead of setting this up here, I'm going to get my water source from the other end of the garden. So let's go down there and actually start assembling this. So whether I'm watering from a garden hose or from the pond, I'm going to run this timer. There's a lot of different ways you can run a timer, but I wanted the simplest possible thing. This is a mechanical timer. You plug the garden hose into one end, you turn the top dial to the number of minutes you want it to water for, and that's it. It's good for me because all of this is about saving time. My garden, my pumpkin patch is flourishing because I spend 30 minutes every other day watering it. But I'd like to free up that time so I can just turn the water on, start the timer, go do other tasks, and then just come back and shut the water off later. And I'm real bad about forgetting to turn something off if I need to let it run. Like I fill my koi pond with water for about 30 minutes once a week, and half the time I forget to shut it off. So step one, I run my water into this timer. Step two, this is a pressure reducer that they sell with the irrigation equipment. 25 PSI regulator. I think regular garden hose, it might be 40 PSI, not sure. But your drip irrigation doesn't need that much pressure. So we'll screw this on. And once again, we're using that whether it is from the hose or the pump. Now I've got a short lead hose that comes off of that regulator just because I don't want to connect my line directly to this. Now we're going to open up our kit, and we've got this fitting right here that adapts from a garden hose down to our 1/4 inch line. So now we just poke this through. That's a tight fit. I think it's supposed to be a tight fit. That's what keeps it from popping off. We just kind of shove the end of our 1/4 inch line into this and then screw it onto the garden hose. Okay, so I'm going to unroll a little bit of this line out because I'm going to be teeing off of it to run 4 different lines for my 4 rows of plants. So we'll go ahead and cut a piece of this off here now, and we can go ahead and test it because I haven't ever used this before, and just make sure our line's not going to come out and everything's working. So I've got my timer shut off, so we shouldn't be getting any water yet. I'm gonna go turn on the water supply. Okay, so the water is on, but we're not getting anything out. If I turn that, woo, that's pretty good pressure. I'll turn our timer back off. Manual on. And now we're off. I'm actually pretty sure I'm not using this the way it's designed to be used, but I also think that what I'm doing will probably work. So I'm gonna go ahead and do what I had originally set out to do. I think the most common way that this is used is they run the larger diameter tubing down the rows, and then they only use these to run out to the dripper. But I'm going to use these to run the entire length of my garden. And I do that. This is my line off the garden hose, and I've got a T here. Okay, I'm going to cut that. And use another T. I've got 4 water output lines here, and I'm going to run a line from each of these down to my plants. So now I've got all these T's hooked up over here. This is my first line that's going to run to a plant. When it gets to the plant, it's going to have another T. This one runs to the next set of plants, and this one will have a short line that runs your dripper. So got a dripper coming off the T. And these are the actual drippers. Let's see what they call it. Water emitters. So I just dropped the first water emitter on that last plant. Now I ran enough hose over to reach this plant and cut it off. Now I install a T, and I install a short line onto my T with another emitter. Then I reconnect this line to the main line again. So we're in from the last plant, out to this emitter, out to the next plant. I'm just going to follow that routine on the whole garden and be right back. The only difference on the end of each row is obviously you're not putting in a T, you're just putting the water emitter straight into the line, and then they have stakes, which I'll add stakes back to the rest of it, but I'm definitely going to stake the end down so it doesn't go anywhere. I'll probably use however many stakes came in the package to try to hold this all still, but we'll just stake this next to the plant. All right, let's turn the water on and see what we get. I hear water flowing. I'm a little bit concerned that the way I did it, that run is too long to still have pressure down at the end. I guess it doesn't need a lot of pressure for a drip. We'll find out. And I guess this is a good time to show you how the plants are doing too. I'm really proud of the way these plants are growing. It's really relaxing to come down here and look at these plants and see their growth every day. I'll show you that I've got a couple of small melons on them. Not melons, pumpkins. I keep thinking of watermelons. That had a nice stream on it. Well, I hope I wasn't putting those on backward. I guess we'll find out. I think I was doing it right. Let's go down and check one on the end of the line and see if we're still getting pressure. So on this end, we're getting the pressure I thought we would get. This right here is enough. The reason that seems like enough is I was planning to turn this on and let it run for an hour or 2 hours or however long it takes to soak the whole hill. Okay, I was doing it right, but I didn't do them all right. That one's backward, and the first one's backward. I don't know how I did that, but I got to go back through and check and see how many of them I did backward. None of that matters. Don't make the same mistake. What matters is the system is working, And for $30 and very little work, I've set up something to automatically water all of my plants. That was only part of the plan for today's video. I love that I can water them without standing here, but I also want to do it with a more fertilized water. So let's see if we can set that up. So here's the pumpkin. And there's a pumpkin. So what we have here is one of several solar power boxes that I've shown on the channel. We have the one from Geniverse, which is a really nice unit. And then we've got two homemade versions. This is the smallest and cheapest of the homemade versions, and probably a good candidate to be what we use for this. And what I'm setting up right now won't necessarily be the finished version as far as the way we package it and set it up. Because right now this is basically just a car battery in a box, and then I would mount the pump probably on the side of it. Have to give that some thought. And then mount the solar panel probably on the lid. But this does have a solar panel that we've been using with it. So for right now, I'm using a 12-volt pump, water pump, like out of an RV. They don't put out a lot of pressure, but they don't need to. So let's just connect it and see if it even works. This is one of those kind of things where my dad just had something laying around, so we're going to see if we can make something out of it. I did see, I think you can get these for under $100 if you had to buy one. You know, and that's a lot for watering a few pumpkins, but not if it's a one-time purchase for a long-time use. Okay, so I just connected it to these leads and it is making noise. So we'll take that off and go ahead and do our plumbing. So what we're gonna do, I've got two adapters. These adapt from, I think it's 1/2-inch pipe thread that came on this pump up to 3/4 inch something. This is what I just call it is garden hose threads. And I've got an adapter for each side of this, so we can have a garden hose hooked up to the infeed and the outfeed. So I went and got this little short hose. We'll hook it to one side, probably the infeed side, since that's what we're using it for. Now, to use this long term, you would need some kind of a filter on your suction hose. And they probably sell them. I haven't looked into that yet. What I was thinking about doing is taking a piece of corrugated black pipe that we use for French drains and putting that in there, a long piece, and then just sticking this a couple feet down into that black pipe, and it shouldn't suck up very much, and that would be a low effort solution. Let's see if we're getting anything. Well, I was about to say we've got a bad pump, but there's a screw on the top of this that says increase and decrease. And it looks like it's screwed all the way out, so it may actually just be shut off. All right, it looks like we turn this screw in to increase. Yeah, it was like backed all the way out. We'll open up the floodgates here. All right, so our pump is not working. When my dad suggested this idea, I thought it would be great, but his suggestion to use the pump he already had didn't work out. And really, I don't think I'd want to suck out of this pond for more than a couple minutes just to test it out. It needs, if we're gonna set this up, I need to do a little bit of refinement, mount the solar panel on here, get a new pump or fix this pump, mount it on the box, get some kind of filtration on our suction hose, and do it right. In the meantime, this video or this day's work was not a waste, because I can now water the garden just by turning on the one hose. So I'm going to call that a win. If you're watching this video in the future, as in more than a week after publishing, check in the description of the video and the pinned comment and you'll find the follow-up video. So anyway, I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.